Tyler practice these past 2 days?
Yeah, Tyler practice. He's in full pads today, full contact. So he's ahead of where he was last week. So he's looking good. But he's out there right now in his full uniform.
Just on offense, when I think back in the early part of the season, what was working was that ball control play action with Dennis. Kind of got away from that a little bit at NC State. Is that the kind of offense you need to get this team going and keep Malik Cunningham off the field?
I think we've used it, Rich. Maybe a little bit less if you look at the numbers, but the scheme really hasn't changed much. So the play action's still there. I think the run game's gotten better. Maybe we haven't hit quite as many over the top like we were, but the play action, maybe it's been a little bit more intermediate that we've thrown. But you'll see some different things this week. I think you'll be excited about.
We'll go next to Trevor.
Hey, Jeff, just what have you seen out of Josh DeBerry? He's been really consistent the whole year pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's the key word. He's been really consistent. It's the way he practices. I think he's really matured too. He's become one of our leaders, not just in the way that he practices, but he's become pretty vocal for us too. Physical kid, tough, studies really hard. I think he's taken a huge step physically and mentally this year, but it's just the way he approaches everything and the consistency that he does it with. So I'm really pleased with where he's at, and I think he'll get better and better.
We'll go to Andy.
Jeff, schematically, Coach Satterfield and Louisville throw a lot at you. Line up in the pistol, like do option, zone read, all the stuff. What is the biggest challenge that you think that they throw at you schematically?
The speed of the quarterback. It's the same. When you look at it first, Andy, it looks like it's a whole bunch of stuff. But they just kind of formation you and give you the different looks and run different plays, run the same plays, just like everybody else. What's different about them is just the speed of the quarterback. And you think you have a play stopped and you're covered, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're trying to figure out why the ball's not thrown and he's 20 yards down the field running. That's the challenge. I mean, trust me, their backs are really good players, like really good players. And the tight end's a solid guy who's catching a lot of balls. The two receivers, there's more than two. They got two guys that can fly. I think 1 and 11 do a good job also. They got some big guys. I mean, I think they might be the most athletic offense that I've seen on tape, but can't say enough about Cunningham.
We'll go to Kevin.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask you about Trey Barry. It seems like you guys have tried to get him involved at least a little bit more. Is that the case, or is it just him continuing to get used to this offense?
I think we've tried to get him the ball in every game, and we'll continue to do so. We tried to get it to him last week. The week before, he had over, I think, 100 yards or 90 yards. So we try to get him the ball every week.
We'll go to Dan.
Coach, Alec Lindstrom mentioned playing against a 0-nose this week for Louisville. Just generally speaking, what are the advantages? What does it take to, play that nose guard position when you're lining up over the center? And what kind of challenges does that present on the offensive line when your center has to go one-on-one against someone?
Well, it creates different angles in an odd defense versus an even defense. Obviously, for Alec, instead of working on double teams and back blocks, he's got to block somebody the whole entire game. I actually was just joking with him. I think this is like the third game in a row. Because I said to Alec, I said, "Hey, how my man Braves look today?" And he said, "I didn't see him, Coach. I was too busy blocking the nose the whole practice." So I mean, odd fronts. Is it 3-4? Is it the 3 stack? Are you 2 gapping? Usually when you're an odd team, you got wider guys who can 2 gap. If you don't, you got a quicker guy who can kind of, beat the center with speed. And then you're blitzing either the field or the boundary guy off the edge to give yourself the 4 down. So there's different types of odd fronts and there's different types of noses. 2 gappers, the big stout guys versus quick guys, some tilt. So there's some different varieties, but it makes Alec's days. He's going to have to block somebody the whole game.
Go to Andy.
Jeff, you mentioned Louisville's tight end, Marshawn Ford. He's one of the best in the ACC. What jumps out to you when you watch the tape and see him?
I mean, he kind of looks like if you're watching it and it's not like blown up, he just looks like another wideout out there because that's how athletic he is. It's like playing when he's spread out there. It's kind of like 10 personnel. He's a really good athlete. He catches the ball well. He can run. He's good at the top of his routes. Solid football player, and they seem to really rally behind him. So I got to take that as he works hard. He's a tough kid and does things the right way.
Go to Dan.
Coach, there was every week there's the announcement of like the practice players, scout team players of the week. I'm just curious about that idea. Like, who came up with that? How's that been implemented? Like, has it developed for those guys into, a big time competition? It feels like it's a big deal for them when it gets announced.
Well, I think everywhere we've ever been, I mean, at least I've ever been, we've always kind of announced a scout team player, whether it's in the NFL or in college. And, I think, in the NFL, we rewarded them a little bit differently because of the rules. But here we usually, when that guy earns it and say we're playing an away game, those guys will actually travel with us. So it is kind of a big deal, whether it's a backup guy, a third string guy, or a walk-on who doesn't normally travel. Because, with the NCAA rules, you can only travel so many players. When that player wins it, he travels with us. And I think that is a big deal. I think it's a cool reward. I try to tell the guys all the time, those scout guys are just as important as, our starters. Because if we don't get a look, we have no chance. So their performance is what they do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to give us a chance to win. And it's like, today, for example, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. Like you guys know Zeke, right? Well, Zeke's a wideout for us, and he's a big guy. He's playing quarterback this week for the scout team. I mean, the guy was unbelievable today. Actually, just had him break down the team. Big guy who can run. He was a quarterback at one time, but we need that look this week. A guy who can run and is strong and can make guys miss and at the same time throw the ball. So we rely on that. And I appreciate a guy like Zeke and all those guys who are giving their all that give us a chance to win every day and have a tremendous amount of respect for that. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, those guys help us win as much as our starters do, truthfully. And they're just as important as any player we have.
Jeff, that looks like it's all our questions for today. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you in a few days.